Welcome, everyone. Okay, in this session, I wanted to cover a little bit of theory. First of all, you don't need it. Okay, to write a song, you do not need to understand music theory. You do not need to speak the language of music or be able to read or write the language of music in order to write a song. Now, when it comes to songwriting and when it comes to actually getting creative, and that's the whole focus of the melody experiment, as you guys would have noticed by now, it's not so much in rules or in structure as much as it is in creativeness and understanding that a song is comes from in here rather than here. Okay. Now, having said all that, there is some theory that is very valuable. It's very, very valuable. Understanding, as an example, the circle of fifths. The circle of fifths is an incredible tool that can be used in many ways to facilitate not only writing a song, but also in developing ideas, in breaking down, songs and understanding, how they're built, and it's just amazing. And even when it comes to sort of going outside of the rules and breaking them or bending them, again, the circle of fifths can serve as an invaluable tool when it comes to composing. Okay, so I wanted to touch on that in this session. Just go over this circle of fifths. I want to do two parts here. First of all, let's have a look at the circle of fifths, and we'll build it. Okay, because the second part of it is I wanted to also answer the question that I've had come up enough times that I want to do this, that how to actually learn the circle of fifths, how to actually have it in your head rather than on a piece of paper or somewhere nearby so that you can have a look at it. How to wrap your mind around the circle of fifths, how it works, why it works. Okay, so I just wanted to do that. So let's get into it. All right, so I've got my trusty little whiteboard over here. Okay, and we're gonna build a circle of fifths here. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Now, obviously, we're gonna start with a circle. Yeah, so we're gonna make a circle here. All right. Now, the circle of fifths is built like a clock. Think of it like a clock. Okay, a clock has 12 positions on it, right? So does the circle of fifths. Why? Because there's 12 notes in music, right? In Western music anyway, there's 12 notes. So we have 12 sections here, okay? So we got one there, one there, one there, one there, two in between, two there, and two there, okay? 12 points. So it starts with C up here, okay? C and its relative A minor. Now, what does this mean? Simple. In the key of C, you've got 7 notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, right? In the key of A minor, you have 7 notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. In other words, they share the same exact notes and chords in the key, which we're going to look at a little later. But this is the concept here, okay? So these two are related, okay? They're related because they share the same notes and the same chords. They share the same key signature, okay? Which in this case is a natural. In other words, there is no sharps or flats in this key, okay? It's the only key in the whole circle of fifths. We're going to have to worry about any sharps or flats, okay? It's just straight up C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, okay? And A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. It's the only key that doesn't have any sharps or flats. The rest of them all have sharps and flats, okay? Why do they have sharps and flats? Now, this is the first concept to understand so that it all sort of makes sense, okay? Why? Well, because there's a formula, okay? Now, a formula, there's two formulas. Actually, there's more than two, but there's two for our purposes here. The two most important formulas in music, and that is the major scale, okay, and the minor scale, okay. Now, to get a major scale, okay, this is the sequence, okay. So it's whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, and half tone. All right, we'll get into this in a second. To get a minor scale, the formula is whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone. What does this mean? Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look here and see what this means in practice. Okay, so we have the key of C major. Okay, now I'm going to do it all on one string so that you can clearly see the relationship between our formula, a guitar, same thing on the piano, okay? Same concept for the piano, doesn't matter what instrument you're using. So you could clearly see the formula and how it works in practice, okay? So we got C, it's here, yeah? According to our formula, what do we have next here? Okay, we've got a whole tone, right? So that's a whole tone. That's a half tone, yeah? Half step, whole step, whichever way you want to call it, doesn't matter. We're talking about the same thing. So a whole tone, C to D is a whole tone. The next one, another whole tone, D to E is a whole tone. Then we have a half tone, E to F is a half tone, okay? Then we have another whole tone, F to G, that's a whole tone. Then we have another whole tone, G to A, that's another whole tone. And then we have one more whole tone, A to B, and a half tone to take us back to C, okay? We just did from C, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, okay? It is the only key where when you play that, there are no sharps or flats. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C. It's the only one. All the rest of them are going to have a sharp or a flat or multiple sharps or multiple flats depending on the key. A minor is the same thing. So if we started from A, we would get exactly the same thing if you followed that formula, the minor formula. So if we followed that, we're going to get exactly the same notes starting from a different position. We're starting from A instead of starting from C, but we have the exact same notes, okay? So we have A, open A on the fifth string, right? A, whole tone is the first step, right? That's a whole tone to B. Then to C is a half tone. Then a whole tone to D. Then a whole tone to E. Then a half tone to F. Then a whole tone to G. And another whole tone to arrive back to A. Okay? But we have the exact same notes that we had in C major. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We're starting from A, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Exactly the same notes they share, and so they are related in that way. Okay? And that's why we call them relative major, relative minor, depending on whatever key you're in. If you're in the key of A minor, your relative major will be C major. If you're in the key of C major, your relative minor will be A minor. And that's basically how that works. The whole idea of the circle of fifths, every position on this circle relies on honoring these two formulas. When you're in the minor keys, you have to honor this formula. And in order to honor that formula, you will have to add a certain number of sharps and flats to every other key but the key of C major or the key of A minor. Okay? So let's continue. All right. So we have here our first position, C major and A minor. Now, after this, as we go around the circle clockwise, okay, we're moving in fifths. That's why this is called the circle of fifths, okay? Because from C to G, which is the next position, is a fifth. C, D, E, F, G. 5 notes, 5 steps, and we got G, okay? And its relative minor will be a third. So E minor is this relative minor, but the relative minors to major are separated by a third, okay? So that's G, F, E, a third below the major, or a third above the minor, depending on where you're starting. E, F, G, G, F, E, C, B, A, A, B, C. Whichever direction you're going in, it's a third. So if you're not sure, like I'm in the key of A major, oh man, what's the relative minor? Well, the relative minor would be F. Of course, it's F sharp, and we're going to see why it's F sharp, okay? And this is the importance of the key signatures and honoring this formula in order to create our circle of fifths, because in the key of A major, which is here, your relative minor is F sharp minor. It's not F minor. And the reason it's F sharp minor is because in order to create the key of A major, you need an F sharp in there in order to honor this formula. Okay? Let's check that out. Quick. All right? Let's see. A major. So, we're in A major. Now we're not in A minor, right? Because A minor was, right? Whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, right? But our major formula is whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, half tone. So, starting from A major, here we go. A, that's our first note. Whole tone from A to B. Good. Whole tone, B to C. Uh-oh, that's not C, right? B to C is a half step. It's a semitone, right? That's C. That's not going to give us a major scale. We need whole tone, so it's C sharp, right? Right? And then we got a whole tone, half tone, D, whole tone, E, whole tone, F sharp. F is here, so we got an F sharp. We got a C sharp, we got an F sharp so far, okay? And then we have another whole tone, G sharp, G is here, G sharp, and half tone back to A. So in the key of A major, we have 3 sharps, okay? And we do them here. We have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, okay? And that's how they're written on a small little mini staff over here. And these are the positions of the sharps and flats. But you have 3 sharps in the key of A major, F, C, and G. The reason it's F, C, and G is because there's an order for that. We'll get to that in a second. In between G and A, that's not a fifth, of course. In between G and A, we have D major here, okay? And its relative minor is B minor, D, C, B. It's a third away, okay? So a third separates these guys. A fifth separates these steps, D, E, F, G, A. That's a fifth, right? D, E, F, G, A, okay? F to A, when you're working out the thirds for your relative minor or relative major, you don't worry about the sharps or flats. You just look at the note name, okay? F, G, A, that's a third. So if you're in the key of A major and you're wondering, well, what's my minor, my relative minor? Well, it's gonna be F. What kind of an F? Well, how many sharps does the key of A major have? It has 3 sharps, F, C, and G, so it's gonna be F sharp minor. This is why it's important to know your circle of fifths, okay? This is why it's valuable. Because when you're in a particular key, if you don't have a small version of a little circle of fifths next to you or on the computer or somewhere visible, you won't know where you are. You won't know what key what notes are available to you, what chords are available to you in that particular key, unless you know your circle of fifths. You'll be fumbling around. And this is why this is super important. One of the reasons why it's super important, okay? But let's continue over here. Let's actually fix these up, because G has 1 sharp, and that's F. D has 2 sharps, and that's F and C. A has 3 sharps, F, C, and G. And the next one is E major and its relative C sharp minor. That has 4 sharps. So as we progress down around the circle, okay, we're adding sharps. On this half of the circle, it's sharps. On the other half, it's flats. And you're going to see how that is. And this is 4 sharps, F, C, G, and D. It's a bit messy. This is the thinnest tip I could find for the whiteboard. Okay, so, and then what do we got? We got B major, okay, and its relative G sharp minor, okay. Again, B, A, G, right? It's a third, G, A, B, whichever direction you want to go in. It's always a third, okay. Here, we've got 5 sharps, F, C, G, D, and A. And here now, at this point in time where they both, the flats and the sharps meet right here at the 6 o'clock position, you have the F sharp major and its relative D sharp minor, okay? They meet here. We'll put a slash here. We're going to have what we call an inharmonic equivalent here, which is basically saying it's the same note with a different name, which we'll look at in 2 seconds, okay? So now at this point over here, we have 6 sharps, okay? So we have F, C, G, D, A, and E, okay, on the staff. Now going counterclockwise, okay, the opposite direction, from here we're going to work out our flats. Okay, now we could continue going this way, but it makes more sense to go this way now, counterclockwise. So we're in F here, okay, F major, and its relative D minor, okay. So now F major has 1 flat, okay, and that is B flat, okay. That's B flat. Next one, we have B flat major. We'll just go through these quick, so that we can actually get to some more other important things here, okay, regarding this. We'll just build it out quick. So G minor here, we got 2 flats, okay, B and E. And then we have, where are we here? Okay, E flat major and C minor. And then we have 3 flats, B, E, and A. Then we have A flat major and F minor. 4 flats, B, E, A, and D. And then we have D flat major here and B flat minor, it's relative minor, okay? And here we have 5 flats, B, E, A, D, G, and C. And then here is where we're going to join the 2 with the inharmonic equivalent of G flat major, okay? And its relative E flat minor. Sorry, it's getting a little messy there. And this one has, you guessed it, 6 flats. B, E, A, D, G, and C. Okay? Inharmonic equivalence. It's exactly the same note. So what that means is right here, okay? Right here, F sharp, which is here, yeah? F sharp, that's F sharp, G flat, right? It's the same exact note, right? So we got F sharp, G flat. That's called an inharmonic equivalent. Different name, same note. What that means is if we worked out our major scale, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, starting from here, okay, we're gonna get 6 sharps or 6 flats, depending on what perspective you're looking at it from, okay? So they'll all be in harmonic equivalence. So it all depends on the composition, the composer, on how the song is played. And this is more relevant to, more complex compositions and orchestras and symphonies and stuff like that. Whereas with our pop rock genres, we don't have to worry too much about all these key signatures, except to understand that we have to honor these formulas. Whatever it takes to honor these formulas, and whichever way you want to play your chords. In this situation here, if we're in the key of G flat, okay, G flat major, right? We're gonna have these 6 chords, which we're gonna get into right now. Let's have a look at the next part of this circle of fifths that is super valuable, okay? And I'm gonna get a different colored pen for this so we could actually see it clearly. Now, say we're in the key of D major, okay? We'll just pick D major here, all right? We got D major. So we're in the key of D major. When we're in the key of D major, we know that we have 6 chords available to us here, okay? So we have D, G, A, okay? So the 2 notes on either side of the D, and we have the 3 minors underneath it. Now that's for chords. For notes, it's very simple. It's just D, A, G, E, B, F. These 6, okay? These 6. Okay? These 6 are the notes, right? So we got D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Uh-oh. C. Where's C? I don't see a C here anywhere. Well, there's a reason for that, because C, and in this case in D, it's a C sharp, because we have 2 sharps here, right? F and C. And by the way, before we continue, we should also delineate the order of sharps and flats and how these are ordered and named, okay? So F, C, G, D, A, E, and B, okay? And the opposite, B, E, A, D, G, C, and F, all right? That's how they're written here, okay? B, B, E, B, E, A, B, E, A, D, B, E, A, D, G. Oh, I put one too many here. Sorry, I stuffed that up. That shouldn't have that one. Okay, sorry. So B, E, A, D, G. For G flat, it's 6 flats. B, E, A, D, G, C. And there's a final flat as well, right? The F. So, but that is and we'll touch on that in a second. And that is the order of the flats, and the order of the sharps is the other way around. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. How do you remember this? This is one of the questions that has come up a lot. How do you remember all this stuff? How do you know all of this? Well, pretty much the same way you would learn anything else. Repetition, practice, doing it over and over and over again. I don't know how many circle of fifths I've drawn. Okay, I've lost count long time ago. This, which is one of the first things I've learned, which is these concepts here in formal education 25 years ago, okay? This part here, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, and B, E, A, D, G, C, F, I probably repeated that, I don't know, 1,000 times. I don't know, maybe 5,000 times. I don't know. Until it was ingrained. So 25 years later, it's F, C, G, D, A, E, B, B, E, A, D, G, C, F. It's just, I don't know. It's just there. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the same, fluency of understanding. Why? Because of repetition. It's not talent. It's not, there's nothing wrong with you if you don't get this straight away, or if you don't remember all this stuff straight away. Okay? It takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of repetition, and it takes a lot of doing this over and over and over again. Understanding these formulas and having them like sort of stamped in your brain. Just from what? From repetition, from study, and from using it a lot. Okay? And actually doing this over and over and over again. and using your guitar, piano, whatever you have available to you, whatever instrument you play, to reinforce that understanding by actual practice. Okay? That's what it takes. That's what it is. There's no secret here to doing this. Okay? It's just do it. Right? So that's as simple as I can put it. Okay? So we're in the key of D major, right? Now in the key of D major, we know that we have two sharps, okay? F and C. How do we know that we have two sharps in the key of D major? Well, you can come to that understanding by playing the scale of D, and understanding by following this formula, understanding that you have to sharpen the F and sharpen the C in order to honor this formula. Okay, that's one way to do it. And the other way is just by repetition and memorization. But memorization without understanding is not great. Okay, that's not gonna have the sticking power and the retention that you will have by understanding why this formula exists, why we have to sharpen the F and the C in the key of D major in order to have a major scale. And what is a major scale? What does it sound like? Okay, a minor scale in the key of F sharp minor. We must inject 3 sharps in that scale. When we start from F sharp, when the key of F sharp minor, we must inject 3 sharps in order to honor this scale. It's just the way that it's all built. Okay, there's no way around it. Now, the beauty of all of this is it all makes sense. And you can have a fifth separating each point over here. If you're going backwards, it's a fourth. Keep that in mind. If you're going to go counterclockwise from C to F is a fourth. C, D, E, F. Okay, so it's a fourth going counterclockwise, a fifth going clockwise. Okay, but if we were to put this to the test, let's just play it out. Let's see how this works, okay? So we have D major, all right? Again, we'll stick with one. I'll do this as clearly as possible, okay? So we got D major, right? Or D, just D. We're in the key of D major. We want the D major scale. So we got a whole tone is our first step. So what is that? E, right? D to E is a whole tone. Good. Another whole tone. F sharp. See? If we went D, E, F, we're not honoring our formula and we're not going to get a major scale. If you don't inject the sharp, if you don't sharpen that F, you don't have a major scale anymore. It's D, E, F is not a major scale. D, E, F sharp. Okay, so let's do that nice and clearly here, starting with D. Okay, so we got D, whole tone to E, okay, whole tone to F sharp, good, half tone to G, whole tone to A, whole tone to B, perfect, whole tone to C sharp, right, not C, C sharp, and half tone back to C. So we have 2 sharps in the key of D major, and that's F and C, in order to honor this formula of a major scale. Okay, very, very important. Another way to clearly show this, I'm just going to do one more example, which is really good, and that is the key of G. I'm not sure if I can erase some of this and go to the key of G. Yeah, let's do that, okay? Just quickly, because this is very interesting. And I think it'll show it a lot more clearly when we do it like this, okay? So this is E, okay. So we want the key of G major now, okay? Let's go to the key of G major, all right? Oopsies. Good, not bad, not bad. Okay, get rid of all of that and we'll just rewrite B minor. Sorry, guys. Okay, all right, cool. Now let's go to the key of G major, all right? G major. Okay, G major, and its relative E minor, okay? But forget the relative. Actually, no. Let's just go to the G major. What I wanted to show you was this, okay? So G and C, okay? Now this is what we're going to do. Now we said that C major, okay, C major has no sharps and flats. It's the only key on here that honors this formula without any accidentals, okay? There's no sharps or flats in the key. They're unnecessary because we have C, whole tone to D, whole tone to E, half tone to F, whole tone to G, whole tone to A, whole tone to B, and half tone back to C. It honors the formula without adding any sharps or flats. But if we go one above, and I chose G because we'll follow the exact same pattern, okay, and see what happens. So we have G. So from G, we'll follow the exact same steps, okay? Whole tone to A, whole tone to B, half tone to C, whole tone to D, whole tone to E, whole tone to F sharp, okay? Not F. So we're introducing the first accidental, which is F sharp in the key of G major, because we have to honor that formula, and then back to G, half tone, from F sharp to G. F to G is a whole tone, and E to F is a half tone. It's not honoring the formula. This is what it's all about. So once you wrap your mind around that, it'll make a lot of sense, because everything is based on these two formulas for this circle of fifths. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to discuss, which we haven't seen at all over here, and you're probably wondering why, is the diminished, okay? So the diminished chord, okay, or that seventh note in the scale. So in the scale of C major, you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. There's the B there. There's no B here, okay? When we look at our key here, these six notes, okay? Okay, these 6 notes for the key of C major, there's no B. Where's the B? There's no B. Okay, it's not shown here. I mean, there are circle of fifths that get really convoluted and show everything, show all the key signatures, all the sharps and flats, all the diminished, everything. But the simple circle of fifths is not going to show you that. It's not going to show the diminished. Maybe one of the reasons is because in Western music, well, not Western music, but in pop rock, all that stuff, it's not used, okay? The diminished is used in passing. It's not really used. In a scale, it's used for sure, okay? We use it in a scale, like I showed you before. But with chords, it's not, okay? So in the key of C major, okay, in the key of C major, we have 6 chords, okay? There's C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and C. What happened to the B? In passing, okay? But the B diminished is not really used, okay? In order to compose 99.9%, okay, of pop rock, country, all those genres that you hear pretty much on the radio, it's those 6 chords, not the diminished. The diminished, you might use it in passing, or you can go okay, sounds familiar? That's the way that diminished are used, and maybe that's why they're not really shown in the circle of fifths, especially the simple circle of fifths. Even this is pretty convoluted. Normally, all you have is just this, okay, just the notes, and without, all the key signatures are usually not there. Okay, so most people are not going to worry themselves with that. The only reason that I did this is to answer that question to those students that wanted to know how to actually wrap their mind around this whole thing and how to actually get to know how to do it for themselves. Okay. I mean, that's basically the whole purpose of that. But in any key, you're going to have 6 chords. Okay. 7 notes, 6 chords, 7 chords, of course, technically with the diminished, but without the diminished, you got 6 chords. And the way to find them, it's super easy. Okay. This is the last thing we're going to look at here. Very easy to find the chords that are in your key. If you're in the key of A major, you don't even need to draw stuff. I'm only drawing it here to show you, okay? It's always the 2 chords or notes that will build the chord upon next to, on either side, the right and the left of your key, whatever key you're in. If you're in the key of A, okay, it'll be the D and the E, and then the 3 underneath this 6, little group of 6, 3 minors, 3 majors, okay? We're in the key of A major. You look at your circle of fifths, okay, what do I got? I got A major, I got D major, I got E major. What else do I have available? Okay, B minor, F sharp minor, C sharp minor, and basically, that is the value of the circle of fifths. I give one to all my students, the ones that we do workshops here, and I give lessons to here locally. I always give them one. I'm not sure if I have one around here somewhere, but it's a little card with a circle of fifths on it. And on the other side of the card is the formulas. Okay, 4 formulas. The major and minor scale formulas and the major and minor key formulas, chords, the chord formulas, sorry, okay? Because there's a chord formula as well. So in every major and minor key, there's also a chord formula, okay, which we haven't touched on here. For now, I just wanted to touch on this and wrapping your mind around this circle of fifths and the way that it works, okay? And this is why it works. It's basically honoring these 2 formulas. It's as simple as that, really. And then the way that you write out your sharps and your flats has to go by this order. Makes our life a lot easier. Whoever came up with this, I remember reading about it ages ago. I don't remember his name, but it's an incredible system. It's like a cheat sheet almost, so that you can work out with these formulas and with the chord structure formulas, you can work out in your head wherever you are, because it's fifths, right? It's all separated by fifths, your relative minor by thirds. So your diminished is always a half a step or a semitone below your major key, or a whole tone 2 half steps above your minor key. So in the key of D major, it's C sharp, half step below. In the key of B minor, it's C sharp, which is a whole step above, right? A, your diminished is B diminished, which is a semitone below C and a whole tone above A, your minor, okay? So these little hacks, these little tricks where you can actually just build out and understand. If you have that understanding, you can build it out easily. And then the more you build it out, the more you're going to retain it and understand it and use it. Okay. So I hope that helps you guys out. I mean, if there's any other questions you have about theory, I'm more than happy to answer them. A lot of the stuff that I studied in McGill is like, I've forgotten, because I don't use it. It's like anything else. Even French, I'm from Montreal originally. The French, I don't use it that much anymore. I don't really talk it anymore. So it's the same with everything. If you don't practice this stuff, you will not retain it. The only reason I still know my circle of fifths, all my formulas, all that stuff, and my modes and all that, we can get into that as well. But, is because I use it, right? And I use these tools for songwriting. And, not all theory is useful for songwriting, to be honest with you, because It's not, you can't get creative when you're always thinking along technical terms. You know, if you're always technically minded and thinking, okay, well, will this work structurally? You know, should it or could it, or forget about all that. You know, you got to go with your heart. You got to go with your, you know, what you're feeling. You know, what your that creative thing. You know, there's a lot of songs that break all kinds of rules that don't make sense on paper. You know, but when you listen to them, they're incredible. You know, they touch you, they make you feel something. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? It's not about following a bunch of rules and getting all technical and, oh, this, you know, could it work? No, don't worry about that. But use some of this theory is super useful, though. Makes your life a lot easier in understanding these basics and using them while writing a song. You know, having that flexibility because you have that knowledge. So, yeah, it's really powerful in that sense. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys out, and yeah, we'll leave it at that, and I'll cover a little bit more theory. I'll do a few more videos on it, and a few other things as well, which are you know, even the staff. You know, just understanding the staff. It's not a complicated thing. You know, it's 5 lines and 4 spaces. Actually, it's 3 lines and 4 spaces. Is your 7 notes. You know, the outside lines really don't count. They're repetitive, but it's just, you know, it's not complex. Don't let anyone make you believe that it's like this specialized knowledge or you have to have some kind of talent to you don't. You just need to apply yourself a little bit. Okay. So anyway, we'll see. I might cover a little bit more with a couple more videos, a little more theory, but I hope that helped you guys out. And until next time, take care.